Early in the new year of 1956, I traveled to southern Iraq. At the time, a thought crossed my mind. I wanted to keep an otter instead of a dog. Kamasfena, which was surrounded by water just a short distance from its door, seemed to me the perfect place for such an experiment. When I casually told this to a friend, he casually replied that I should get an otter from Tigris marshes. Their waters were as common as mosquitoes, and Arabs often tamed them. We were going to Basra to the consulate general to collect and answer our European mail. At the consulate, we found that my friend's mail had arrived, but mine had not. So, I sent a message by telegraph to England. After 3 days, when nothing happened, I tried to telephone, but the call had to be booked 24 hours in advance. On the first day, the line was out of order. On the second, the exchange was closed for the religious holiday. On the third, there was another breakdown. My friend left, and I planned to meet him in a week. 5 days later, my mail finally arrived. I carried it to my bedroom to read, and there on the floor sat two Arabs. Beside them lay a sack that twisted about time to time. They gave me a note from my friend. Here is your otter. With the opening of that sack, a new phase of my life began. It has not ended yet, and may not end till I die. It was sort of a slavery to otters, a strong attachment, a fixation. Later I found that almost all people who had ever owned otters felt the same way. The creature that came out of the sack into the tiled floor of the consulate bedroom looked like a small medieval dragon. From head to the tip of tail he was covered with pointed scale of dried mud, and between them was soft velvet fur, like the fur of chocolate brown mole. He shook himself. I expected a cloud of dust, but it was another month before I could remove the last of the mud and see his true colors. I called the otter Mijbil, or Miz for short. Later, zoologists found he was actually a species unknown to science, and they named him Litrogale perspicillata maxwelli, Maxwell's otter. For the first 24 hours, Miz was neither friendly nor unfriendly. He kept himself away from me, indifferent, and slept far from my bed. On the second night, in the small hours, he climbed onto my bed and slept in the crook of my knees until morning tea was brought. From then, he began to lose his lack of interest and developed a strong curiosity about his surroundings. I made a body belt for him and took him on a lead to the bathroom. There, for half an hour, he went wild with joy. He plunged, rolled, shot up and down bathtub underwater, making enough splashes for a hippo. This I learnt was the nature of otters. Every drop of water had to be spread out. A bowl must be overturned, or if not, sat in the splashed until it overflowed. Water must always be kept moving. When it was still, it was wasted and irritating to them. 2 days later, Miss escaped from my room. I saw his tail vanish into the bathroom, where he was upon the bathtub, fumbling with the taps. In less than a minute, he had turned the tap enough for a trickle of water. Soon he managed it to full flow. He was lucky that day to turn it the correct way. Later, he sometimes tightened it more, then chittered with anger, and water did not flow. Soon Miss began to follow me without a lead and came when I called his name. He played most of the time. He would shuffle a rubber ball like a footballer using all 4 feet, and he could even throw it with a flick of his neck. But his favorite play was lay on his back and juggle with small objects on his belly. Marbles were his favorite toys, and he rolled them without dropping them. The days at Basra went peacefully, but I was afraid of the trouble of taking Miss to England and to Camasferna. The British Airlines would not allow animals, so I booked a flight to Paris and on another airline, and from there to London. The airline demanded that Miss should be packed into a box of 18 inches square to be kept at my feet. I had a box made. An hour before the journey, I put Miss into the box to get him used to it and went to a quick meal. When I returned, there was a shocking scene. There was silence from the box, but the blood had trickled out through the air holes. I quickly opened it. Miss covered in blood, weak and crying, caught my leg. He had torn the lining into the sharp bits and hurt himself. After cleaning it, there were only 10 minutes left for the flight, and the airport was 5 miles away. I put Miss back, holding down the lid with my hand, and sat with the box as the car raced like bullet through Basra streets. At the airport, angry officials rushed me through. The plane was waiting. Luckily, my seat was in the front. I spread newspapers on the floor, gave the hostess a parcel of fish for Miss, and told her what had happened. I always remember her with deep admiration. She was the queen of her kind. She suggested I keep Miss on my knee. I felt grateful, but I was not prepared for what followed. The moment the box opened, Miss shot out and ran down the plane. There were screams, and women shouted, "A rat, a rat!" Miss Style went under the legs of a fat Indian with a white turban. I dived but fell into the curry. The hostess smiled and told me to sit down and that she would bring him back. I sat trying to follow the chase when I had a familiar chitter at my feet. Miss leapt on my knees and nuzzled my face. After that eventful journey, we reached London. We stayed there for nearly a month. Miss played for hours with toys, ping pong balls, marbles, rubber floats, and the terrapin shell. He even invented a game with the damaged suitcase I had carried from Iraq. He rolled the ball from the high end, rushed to the other side to ambush it, caught it, and repeated the game happily. I took him outside on a lead like a dog. On these walks, he developed habits like children who must step on very block center or touch every seventh railing. Opposite my flat was a primary school with a low wall. Every time we returned home, he would drag me there, run its length, and distract pupils and staff. Londoners did not know otters. Their guesses amused me. Some thought he was a baby seal, a squirrel, a walrus, a hippo, a beaver, and a bear cub. Even brontosaurus. The best was from the laborer. He put down his stool, stared, spat, and angrily asked her, "What is that supposed to be?"